It's Wednesday, February 23rd, and this is now on HNN. We're learning more about the 4 victims killed in a helicopter crash on Kauai. The latest from the Pacific Missile Range facility.
President Biden announces more sanctions as the Pentagon says Russia's attack on Ukraine is now imminent. I'm Deborah Alfarone at the White House with the ways the Biden administration and NATO allies are coordinating to respond to Russia.
Turning down the volume in Waikiki, how a proposed measure aims to curb noise in the tourism epicenter.
And fresh images of Halimau Mountain Crater, where the lava lake continues to bubble. These stories and more coming up on This Is Now. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being with us. Joining us in the H&N Digital Center, I'm Casey Lunn, alongside Mark Carpenter, Ashley Nagaoka, of course, on Kauai, covering that deadly helicopter crash. Mark?
That's right. 4 people were killed when a chopper went down at the Pacific Missile Range facility in Kekaha. Today, we've learned the names of the victims. Here's Ashley with the latest.
Kremlin Corporation, the contractor that operates the helicopter, released the names of the 4 victims killed in yesterday's crash. They are 64-year-old Daniel Maurice, the chief pilot and FAA designated pilot examiner, 55-year-old command pilot and check airman Patrick Rader, 42-year-old Erica Tevez Valdez, and 44-year-old Matthew Hayter. Both were working on board as mechanics and air crew. The contractor says Rader, Tevez Valdez, and Hayter were all Kauai residents, while Maurice is a resident of Washington State. Now, teams from the NTSB, FAA, and the helicopter's contractor will be arriving on Kauai today, with the investigation likely starting tomorrow. Now, this is what we do know so far. Officials say the crash happened Tuesday at around 10 a.m. near the north side of the installation during a training operation. The NTSB identified the helicopter involved as a Sikorsky S-61N. It's contracted by the military and operated by Oregon-based Kremlin Corporation. The helicopter company says all 4 fatalities were employees. Those on base yesterday say they heard a loud crash and a big plume of black smoke could be seen from land and from the ocean by tour boats. We also spoke with a student who was on a PMR field trip at the time of the crash. She said they were on a tour at the fire station and saw a helicopter flying around. Then they heard a loud bang.
I thought it was just like maybe a fire or something. I didn't think that something actually, I didn't think it was that serious. Our tour guides had no clue. We didn't know if it was like a vehicle that crashed or something. And then they said that it was an aircraft.
Navy officials confirmed the civilian helicopter was contracted by the military to retrieve objects from the water. A spokesperson from Kremlin Corporation says the chopper was attempting to unload what it was hauling when something went wrong. Now, Kauai Mayor Derek Kawakami released a statement calling this a heartbreaking tragedy. To the victims' loved ones, he said, quote, "I know there are no words that can express the extent of what you are going through or provide the solace that you need, but please know that our entire community is here for you." Now, the NTSB will be looking into what caused this crash, but as we've seen in the past, these investigations can take time. Reporting from Kauai, Ashley Nagaoka, Hawaii News Now.
War in Europe is looking like more of a certainty as Russian forces are poised to launch an all-out offensive in Ukraine. Deborah Alfarone has more details from the White House, where President Biden is focusing on punishing Russia's economy.
The Biden administration has announced new sanctions against the Nord Stream 2 pipeline and its corporate officers. It comes one day after Germany halted certification of the project, which would have transported natural gas directly from Russia to Germany.
We have ensured that this is an $11 billion prize investment that is now a hunk of steel sitting at the bottom of the sea.
New satellite images show Russia's military buildup is growing along Ukraine's border, and U.S. officials say the Kremlin continues to send troops into rebel-held areas. At a United Nations General Assembly meeting in New York, Russia's representative made this threat.
The ceasefire will be monitored by the Russian armed forces no one intends to go softly with any violators.
At the same meeting, U.S. Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield warned that Russia's actions could set off a tidal wave of suffering across the world, including a spike in food prices and a refugee crisis.
Now is the time to get off of the sidelines. Let us together show Russia that it is isolated and alone in its aggressive actions.
Local Ukrainian media say its government's websites were targeted Wednesday by cyber attacks. Ukraine has mobilized its military reservists as tensions build.
We appreciate decisions already taken, but they're not enough to prevent Russia from changing their mind.
The European Union has scheduled an emergency meeting on Thursday to discuss further assistance to Ukraine and more possible consequences for Russia. Deborah Alfarone, CBS News, the White House.
And as tension escalates in the region, expect a direct impact on rising fuel prices. Errol Barnett explains.
We are all likely to feel this in some way, shape or form. Fuel prices are steadily creeping higher, and there are several factors at play, including newly announced sanctions against Russia, but you also have high fuel demand in Europe and a limited global supply. All of that's pushing the price for a barrel of oil steadily toward $100, although it's not there just yet. Gas prices are continuing their upward march, with a gallon of regular now costing an average of $3.53. The cost of heating oil, that's also up. It's costing Americans 47% more now to warm up our homes with heating oil this winter than it did a year ago. Now keep in mind, Russia is a major exporter of oil and natural gas, selling 12% and 17% respectively of the global supply. So whatever the economic punishment Russia receives here in the coming days and weeks, it is likely going to put increasing pressure on the global supply chain, which we already know is quite fragile. Now, the Biden administration is trying to coordinate with major fuel producers and consumers to secure global energy supplies, and it has not ruled out eliminating the federal gas tax, but even those efforts are likely to have only an incremental impact. Errol Barnett, CBS News, Washington.
Speaking of fuel, this morning, the Honolulu City Council discussed a bill that would require city permits for large underground fuel tanks like those at Red Hill. It would also allow inspections by city officials. The bill has already passed its second reading unanimously, meaning it could fully pass the City Council today and be sent to the mayor for his signature. Just yesterday, Hawaii Senator Sen Hirono toured the Red Hill fuel facility. She sits on the Senate Armed Services Committee. This morning, she spoke with Steve Uehara on Sunrise.
And Senator, before we get to what you saw, we also know that you did not sign the congressional bill that would mandate the permanent shutdown of Red Hill. So you're supporting a state permitting process instead. Why is that?
Well, we're heading toward shutting down Red Hill. There are some steps, so that's what I'm focused on. First of all, we need to make sure that the flushing and the testing of water continues so that people can get back to their homes and businesses can reopen. And then we need to defuel the facility, which is going to take hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. The $100 million that we put into the bill that we voted on just before I came home is just a part of what it's going to take. And the third is I'm pushing for, through the language in the National Defense Authorization Act, through the committee that I sit on, the SASC, which is the military committee, that I put in language for alternatives for how we are going to meet the fueling needs of the Indo-Pacific area of command. So these are the ways that we are going to move everyone toward closing of Red Hill. So there are all these steps, and that's what I'm focused on.
Yeah, and Senator, I know you say closure and you say the shutdown, but I know you were also asked if you support the permanent closure of those fuel tanks. And I just want to be clear, do you support the permanent closure?
That's where we're heading.
Okay.
That's what I'd like everyone to head, including the President of the United States and the Department of Defense. I'm working on those, folks. So, I don't know that we're quite, but I think we're getting there.
Okay, well, what else needs to be done?
First of all, as I said, that we need to make sure that people can get back to their homes and businesses can open. I also met with some business people yesterday. And then the defueling is a massive facility So the defueling safely is going to require hundreds of millions of dollars in appropriations. This is not money that's just going to fall into our laps. So our delegation needs to focus on all the money that it's going to take to defuel safely. And then I will be pushing, I've already been talking with the Department of Defense that we need to find alternatives. They are exploring alternatives to how to meet the fueling needs so that we can shut down Red Hill. But the ultimate power on shutting down Red Hill is the state of Hawaii through its permitting process. And that's why I focused on not taking away Hawaii's authority to protect the people's water through its permitting process. My hope is that we're all going to be on the same page and that we will find alternative ways to meet the fueling needs of the military in Hawaii.
Authorities say 2 men were stabbed in Chinatown near River Street and North Hotel Street. This happened around 6 last night. EMS says 1 man is in his 30s, the other in his 60s. They both had stab wounds to their upper bodies and were taken to a hospital in serious condition.
Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi is holding a virtual community meeting today on efforts to revitalize Chinatown. Since last year, the city has increased its police presence in the area. Crews also sweep streets, power wash sidewalks, and perform more facility maintenance. More improvement and repair projects are planned for this summer. That virtual meeting starts at 5:30 tonight. Details to join will be posted at our website, hawaiinewsnow.com.
Happening now, state house committees are deciding whether or not to advance a Mauna Kea management bill. The bill would create the Mauna Kea Stewardship Authority as the sole governing body of the state-owned lands on the Mauna. The authority would develop a single plan to manage land use with guidance on human activity and access, education, and research. The group would also develop a plan to limit astronomy development on the mountain.
A bill to curb bribery and corruption among local lawmakers is advancing in the legislature. A state Senate committee voted to pass a bill requiring all lawmakers and candidates to file a notice of intent for all campaign fundraisers. The notice would be required for all fundraisers held during the legislative session, and regardless of price or suggested contribution amount. The bill goes to the full Senate next. The vote comes on the heels of the bribery case involving former lawmakers Jay Kalani English and Ty Cullen. They both pleaded guilty to accepting bribes to influence cesspool legislation.
The state Supreme Court has upheld a plan for a controversial wind farm on Oahu's North Shore. In a 73-page decision, the court ruled against the appeal filed by Keep the North Shore Country, which argued that the plan did not comply with Hawaii's endangered species statutes. Conservationists have long opposed the Napua Makani 25-megawatt wind farm, saying it interfered with the Hawaiian hoary bat. But an annual report last year found only 1 bat at the sites of 3 North Shore wind farms in the last 7 years. In its ruling, the court said the bats will survive and recover.
The city unveiled its new zero-emission bus fleet and charging stations at the Kalihi Palama bus facility. The facility costs nearly $3.5 million and can charge 9 buses all at the same time.
This is the first step of a long journey that we have on Oahu to try to get our infrastructure set up for electric vehicles. And this is a really timely time to do that because with the new federal infrastructure law that's passed, a large emphasis is on electrification of transportation.
The Department of Transportation Services says Oahu's fleet now includes 17 electric vehicle buses. The goal to get the entire fleet running on renewable fuel by 2035.
An effort to set up a food truck park in Kahului, Maui is facing a smelly challenge. The law near Kahului Harbor includes a sewer opening where wastewater trucks are allowed to discharge their loads into the county system. Residents who've been trying to spruce up the area say it really stinks, and they want the county to close that manhole.
First of all, we're trying to make it nice, clean it up, and then our vision is to put food trucks in here. Make like a hangout spot, hopefully can put like some camping sites for families to come down and enjoy the area.
I wish they could just go straight to the plant and dump there instead of come here, because we're trying to start a business and get this place going for the community.
We sent a request to the county for answers, still waiting on a response. Back on Oahu, Waikiki is known to be a lively area, but residents there say the noise is getting to be a bit much. Billy V explains a proposed measure that would mitigate the sound.
Thank you very much. Today, the Honolulu City Council is considering a bill that would ban noise amplifiers from public property in Waikiki. This would be things like computers, loudspeakers, musical instruments, microphones that would not be allowed to blast music or other sound from sidewalks. The rule would apply to music played loud enough to be heard 30 feet away. City Council Chair Tommy Waters introduced the bill.
It's so loud. You could drive down Kalakaua Avenue, be in the far right lane, and the amplified sound is on the left-hand sidewalk with my windows up, air conditioning on, and the radio, and you can still hear these people. It's super loud. I can only imagine when you're trying to sleep. And by the way, the police tell me that this loud amplified music goes on till after midnight.
Now, the first fine on this would be $100, $250 for the second violation, and a $500 fine for a third with up to 30 days of jail time. The bill acknowledges the potential conflict with the First Amendment, but argues that freedom of speech should have its limits. It cites legal precedent banning things like sound trucks that roll through city streets emitting noise. Waters says at some point there should be a designated place for street performers, but he says that is down the line. From Waikiki, I'm Billy V for This Is Now.
Thank you very much, Billy. Beautiful day out there, Mark.
Excellent.
Yeah, let's check
Absolutely
in
gorgeous.
see how much longer these conditions are going to stick around, and a little check of your weather with Guy Hoggy.
How's it on this Wednesday? Great weather today. Lots of sunshine, very little rain. If anything, windward sides might pick up a few showers this morning and again tonight. But really, there's no significant rainfall expected anytime soon. Trade-ins will run nice and breezy today, so air quality will not be an issue. Humidity levels will be comfortable. So it's going to be a gorgeous Wednesday, which will look a lot like yesterday and look a lot like tomorrow. High temperature running to about 83 degrees. And the surface holding steady up in the country on that new swell that came up yesterday. But a huge swell is due in tomorrow night, peaking on Friday. High surf warnings likely posted between the Thursday-Friday time frame. And as far as the weather, it's going to be just wonderful. Breezy trade-ins through Saturday, lighter winds heading in for the weekend.
Well, this week brought new activity at Halemaumau crater where lava continues to flow. We caught up with the USGS for an update.
Hey, thank you. And I have Drew Downs. He's a geologist with the Hawaii Volcanoes Observatory with USGS. Drew, thanks for being with us. I just want to ask you, we've seen some of that latest activity from the West Vent, some of that gorgeous video. It prompted me to want to kind of check in with HVO and see what's happening up at the crater right now.
Yes, so the Kilauea is still going through its cycles of kind of every few days it'll have lava coming out, and then for a few days it seems to pause, and then it'll start again. Over the last couple days, especially this long holiday weekend, it's been pretty steady where it's been coming out of this little embayment that's kind of just north of the West Vent. But throughout the weekend, it started coming out of the West Vent itself on this little cone on its side. And so we've now got it feeding into the kind of active part of the lava lake from two different areas, the West Vent and just north of the West Vent. And it's been quite spectacular to watch.
And can you give us an idea of just how much lava has accumulated in the crater since the eruption? I was there in September. It was exciting. We've had an exciting couple of years between the December of 2020 and this latest eruption that began in September. How much has the lava lake grown?
Since about September, it's gotten about 300 feet deep.
Wow.
So it's grown quite substantially in the last 6 months or so.
And then I also want to ask, of course, the communities that have been impacted by the 2018 flow and previous flows and eruptions, are there concerns still for the Lower East Rift Zone? And how are you guys monitoring to see whether or not lava is going where we don't want it to? What's the current situation with community impact right now?
As of right now, there's no indication that it's going to be going anywhere other than within the crater itself. So we've got instruments all over Kilauea to measure earthquakes, to measure the different tilt as kind of the volcano inflates and magma comes up underneath it, and kind of GPS movements as is something, moving under the crust and ready to come to the surface. And we're only seeing signals that show that the eruption is going to stay in the crater up at Halemaumau for the time being. There's no indication it's going to be going down to the lower East Rift Zone at the moment.
Wonderful news. And I know this is always a hard question to answer. Any idea of, is it slowing down, or it seems like it's on again, off again? Do you know how much longer we can expect this to last?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we'd love to be able to tell people that, but it could be like the 2008 to 2018 lava lake and be a very long-lived thing that just every couple days starts and stops. Or it could stop in the next couple weeks and then start up months down the road. At the time being, we don't know.
That's kind of what I love about lava is, it's, you can do your best to try and forecast, but it's not like a lot of other natural forces. And that's what makes it so special. Still a beautiful glow, and it's still worthwhile for folks to come up to the park and check it out, right?
Oh, absolutely. Even this weekend, I walked out to where the visitors can go see the lava, and it's always a special sight to see.
Oh, it's my favorite place to be in Hawaii. Drew, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate your time. Aloha, my friend.
Aloha. Thank you for having me.
Casey, we could watch volcano video all day long.
Mark and I were just sitting here mesmerized.
No, I mean, anytime you play the video, it is just something else. Many thanks to our friends up at the observatory for taking the time to talk with us. Taking a look at what's trending on the feeds right now, some movement in the NFL. A cryptocurrency group is trying to get into the league owners game. A collection of cryptocurrency investors is making an attempt to raise funds to purchase the Denver Broncos. Now, this is quite a unique setup, as there's no single leader in this group, but it's more so a collection of attorneys, accountants, software developers, and athletes. Their fundraising goal, $4 billion. And typically, in these situations, there is a majority investor with other shareholders. So it will be, fascinating to see kind of how this unfolds, how, if the league would even approve it, to get into this exclusive circle of NFL owners.
But would you say that's a franchise price is in the billions now?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the Denver Broncos. And so, I mean, the team's trustees have said that their plan is to make sure that this deal closes and there is a transaction in place by the start of next season.
It's a whole lot of Dogecoin, my friend.
A lot of bidders out there.
Well, we got another story to tell you about from the feeds. A new world record has been set. It has to be one of the least meaningful world records in the world, by the way. The most stacked M&Ms. We always do this story, and it's fun to see when it gets updated. Australian Brendan Kelby, the new champion, before the record stood at 5 M&Ms. The 22-year-old very carefully stacked 6 of the hard-shell candies. They have to stand freely for 10 seconds. He has 12 other world record titles that are not food-related, by the way. You can go find all of those on mashed.com.
I love these stories because I love thinking of records that, could be possible.
Yeah.
7 stacked M&Ms?
That's insane.
That actually, I don't know. It feels like it seems obtainable.
Jen Robbins and I tried to do it on the anchor desk last year when the last time we had a story update on this, and I got 3. But I just wanted to mash them all together.
And these are regular plain M&Ms, right?
The regular chocolate ones.
Peanut M&Ms would...
Those would be impossible.
Throw a wrench into all of this. What's also being discussed online, a very exciting story in this ever-present world of social media. It's called the 18 for 18 challenge, and when Silvert Klefsauce was 12 years old, his mom made him a bet that if he stayed off social media until 18, she'd pay him $1,800. 6 years later, he's 18, kept his promise, cashed in. He says it was tough at times to be out of the loop on online crazes, but says that it allowed him to focus more on his grades and sports. So
that would be
good
tough
for him. Good for the family.
Yeah.
Set it up bet.
I don't know if I could do it, which is a sad thing to admit. But I just looked at my phone right before I put us on camera here.
Gotta go on IG.
Yeah. Let's check some good news now, Mark.
Oh yes.
Well, a lucky Hawaii man hit the jackpot in SimCity. That's him behind a big check, $275,000. He decided to remain anonymous. His bet, by the way, just 25 cents for all of that. Not bad at all.
And in downtown, too.
That's where wasn't even on the Strip. That's right.
Going to the Fremont to cash in. But it's also some good news. The Honolulu Zoo.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, we're just about out of time. We just wanted to remind you that we're going to have much more on the helicopter crash coming up at 4 with Mark on This Is Now.